Hi, everybody. My name is Leslie Kendall. I am the chief historian of the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles. Today, we're going to talk about a car that is worth $1 million. In fact, many millions of dollars. This car, it embodies everything that a valuable car, that a desirable car would. It is fast. It is beautiful to look at. It is rare. It is beautifully built. And it was owned by somebody who has become legendary, actor Steve McQueen. Now, the basis for this car was a Jaguar D-type racing car. This is a Jaguar XKSS that was derived from that D-type racing car. Now, they had made a number of D-types, and they were very successful at Le Mans. In fact, Jaguar was on top of the world with their D-types and the C-type that preceded it and vehicles that came after. But when the car started becoming a little bit less competitive, they said, well, you know what? We've got 25 of these left over. They're not going to be really racing competitively anymore. Why don't we take them and turn them into the ultimate in road-going sports cars, which they did. Unfortunately, they only got around to doing that to 16 of them when there was a fire at the Browns Lane factory that completely destroyed all of the others, including the 9 D-types that were going to be transformed. And what a transformation it would have been, because in order to make this racing car a road-going car, you had to do quite a few adaptations. In fact, you had to add body protection in the form of little bumperettes. You had to have a full-width windshield. Keep in mind that the D-types, many of them, it amounted to vehicles with 2 different cockpits and a little tiny window in front. But for this, you needed weather protection, which meant windshield wipers, which also meant a convertible folding top that you could fold up and latch to the windshield header. You also needed windows on the doors, and these windows didn't roll up and down. You took them out. You had to unscrew them, then they came out. It was a bit of a process, so you kind of wanted to plan your trip because these are not things that you're going to want to leave by the side of the road. You don't want to lose windows to your Jaguar XKSS. The cockpit is very familiar to anybody who's ever raced one of these, but it's a little bit more civilized. And the interior of this car was made even more special because Steve McQueen had counterculture artist Von Dutch make a special door for the glove compartment. Now, you can only imagine that when you were accelerating, if you had a hole in your dashboard that contained gloves or paperwork or registration or anything else, it would come flying out the harder you accelerated. And my hunch is that Steve McQueen had a problem with that. So he had Von Dutch make a special glove box door. He also had Tony Nancy upholster the interior. Tony Nancy, well known and very highly regarded in hot rod circles. He was written up all the time for his work in Hot Rod Magazine and other magazines that talked about vehicles that were so important to the youth culture of their day. Another adaptation for road-going use was a provision for luggage. I don't think you see very many racing cars today with a luggage rack on the back, but the XKSS certainly was one of them. So here you have a car that embodies everything distinctive about a car that is worth many millions of dollars. Some say this is worth well into 8 figures. So few were built, so few have a provenance of this car, and so few were kept intact and are as original and as authentic as this car. McQueen had it repainted. It started out white with a red interior. McQueen didn't like those colors. But in this case, factory original takes a back seat to its notable owner. McQueen did not like those colors, so he had them changed. This car is about being an XKSS, but it was also about being Steve McQueen's car, probably the most potent, most raw sports car that he would ever own. He would terrorize Los Angeles. He enjoyed going fast along Mulholland Drive, which If anybody is in Los Angeles, I encourage you to take that street. It's windy. It gives it gives you the ability to test your driving skill as long as you keep things within reason. You can have a little bit of fun on Mulholland Drive. Undoubtedly, Steve McQueen had his share of fun too. And it wasn't just the coachwork of the car that set it apart or its bare bones nature. It was the engine of this car. It was a 4.2 liter straight six double overhead cam that produced 250 horsepower. 250 horsepower in a car that weighs this little is an enormous amount of horsepower. It really got the car down the road. You had disc brakes on all four wheels, something that Jaguar had helped innovate in its day, which meant that you could go fast a lot farther into a turn before you had to slow down because the brakes were so efficient and they dissipated heat so well. But opening the hood, looking at the engine is like looking at a jewel. It's mechanical artistry at its best.